Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. So here let's do a report card of the developer actions in Nier Reincarnation during 2023. And, I tried really hard to find positive things. For the record, I am never negative to ruin people's day, or to drum up controversy for clicks, or to kill a game to demonstrate my power over Square Enix. No. What I'm doing here is reporting what I see, and if what I see sucks, then I'll say so. Same if I see something good. 2022 had a lot of good, a lot of A grades. The 3D Viewer, Recollections of Dusk introduction, Provoke, Blackhorn Weapons, Costume Awakenings. Damn it, I miss 2022. This year has been a lot of me screaming at the developers, stop ruining the game I love. Some people seem to think that if you love a game, you have to love every decision the developers make. That is absolutely not the case. They are separate entities, and we should treat them as such. You can love the New York Knicks and hate the owner at the same time. It's okay. But let's give some high grades, some middling grades, and some failing grades, and in that order, so that the sensitive people that don't want to hear the negative can stop watching before we get there. First, the positive. Links to other media, other works, A+. In the Automata anime, we saw Adam become the four-armed boss from Reincarnation. We got the Sino Alice appearance, we got a Dragon-Dragoon connection, and we got another Automata connection with the reveal of Pod 006 and 10H. For fans of the various games and types of media, it's been fun to get these reveals, and it shows that there is a greater plan in place. Next is the Dauntless skill, B grade. This is a fun mechanic, introduced by Handout 063Y and experimented with a little on Circus Noel, but it really came into its own with Dragon Quest Sarafa. Powerful but difficult to use, it feels balanced and geared towards advanced players, which is why it only gets a B, it's not for everyone. It did make me want to play Arena manually, which is a minor miracle in itself. And then another A+ for the story, specifically the conclusion of Sun Moon, and then everything going on in People World. Can't praise it enough, it's the #1 reason to play the game. Next, the middling grades, C for Karma. The customization aspect is cool, but some choices are so much better than others that there are only a couple builds or skills really desirable. Resistance to stun, really? And the way resets are set up is so cynical and so disrespectful of the users' time. And then the materials to Karma the RD costumes is locked behind top-tier difficulty stuff, which is another game mode that is disrespectful of the users' time and just bleh. Next, a B- grade for Fate boards and level 100. They are essentially more floors of the tower, which is cool, I enjoy tower, and we can get various materials and currencies as rewards. But the attached level 100 edition for costumes and weapons is so blah and vanilla. It's just more stats, skills are not affected, so it's just one more piece of busy work. But now, less than a year since it was introduced, diligent players, even free-to-play, have enough characters and weapons at level 100 that we're pretty much done with the game mode, and it's like, that's it? Are they going to introduce another new game mode and another higher level to again give us more busy work to do? The developers kind of sabotaged their own game mode by giving out too many of the materials. Poor planning there. And then a D grade for the Recollections of Dusk changes and costume elements. These are two things that were released separately, but in retrospect, it's clear that they added elements to costumes in order to make Recollections of Dusk shittier. This whole thing really demonstrated to me not only that the developers lack programming chops in their repeated failure to implement either a working auto-team build function or a team build save function, so we wouldn't have to rebuild our team every time, but that even if they could have successfully programmed that, it's still clear that they didn't plan or test well enough ahead of time to make RD Quest something fun and approachable for everyone. So, after a couple of embarrassing updates, they essentially threw in the towel on their original plan, lowered the difficulty into the basement, removed the weapon restriction, scaled back the unit and element restriction, and proceeded to take back and redo all the old quests, which they still aren't done with yet, by the way. And even then, they got it wrong. They kept the unfriendly costume element restriction because they certainly couldn't get rid of it, The RD quest is kind of the only reason for it to exist. And then, there weren't many of us, but some of us enjoyed the quests the original way. And with the 3 levels of difficulty, there is still space to include that old way. But nope, just lower the difficulty across the board, make the last 2/3 of the game mode mindlessly easy for anyone who had enough costumes of the element needed. It kind of feels like that they just sort of gave up on the game mode. They were like, oh, we screwed it up and we can't fix it, so we'll just make it a non-game mode. Very disappointing. Alright, so those were the middling grades. Next, let's get to the failures. The Sarafa Karma Snafu gets an F. If the previous happening made us suspicious about how competent the developers are with programming and planning, this eliminated any suspicion. Karma was already bad enough, but this royally screwed things up. Whether it was a mistake they doubled down on or not, whether it was planned for later or made up on the fly, who knows? It doesn't matter at this point. What matters now is that we have a skill so powerful, it is the only one worth getting, and that kills the customization aspect of Karma. And it is so powerful that costumes without it are largely unusable in PvP, and so that further shrinks the pool of usable costumes, leading to more sameness in team builds. And most of those are limited-only characters. And the skill is so powerful it trivializes PvE, specifically Fate boards, which contributes to players raising most of our accounts to level 100, less than a year after the system was introduced, like I just said. And the fact that the 30% cooldown haste is on the 3rd slot, that previously we could have safely ignored, means that we need that much more materials and real-life time to give to the system that doesn't respect our time. Top global player, Zero2, quit the game over this, apparently, and that's a perfectly legit reason. It is bullshit. Next, the addition of Subjugation's Quest 5 gets an F+. For some users, this was a positive, that's why it gets a plus. They get a higher score to aim for, with a higher difficulty level, but for the majority of us, it was a net negative because, besides offering unique, powerful rewards most of us would never see, it upset the delicate balance of the game economy, which had, until then, been able to take in decent numbers. After this, sales fell off a cliff and got worse each month, and not even exploitative practices are bringing them back up. We are all hurt by the game taking in less revenue. And then, X grade on top of all of this, just salt in the wound. Alright, and then, F for shift to player unfriendliness overall. Where to begin here? There's everything I've said up to now, time-wasting karma, uninspired power creep busywork in level 100, introduction of costume elements to make things worse for us, not better, but also the limited banner setup, which is backwards to like every other mobile game, little to no info on costumes before release to go along with less communication overall, loads and loads of paid-only banners, karma for mostly limited units only, sped up power creep on new releases, more focus on Awakening 3 to make new costumes usable, and overpowered debris items to make us want to pull more. The developers keep making moves to get in our wallets, and in response we users are closing our wallets tighter and tighter, and the game becomes more of a feel-bad experience as a result. It is elevated now and then with terrific story stuff, but the day-to-day is feeling like it is developers versus users, and that's a bad situation for a mobile game. Here let's give some grades to some of the limited time events that appeared during this year. First was the Subjugation Showdown. I'll give that a C-. This came down to like a half dozen whales on Twitter showing off, and everyone else just watching. And even the developers later admitted that this was not a great community event, and they never did another Subjugations contest again this year. Alright, a little after that was the Arena Showdown. I'll give this a B+. This was a success. Simple, fun, and had good rewards. Doesn't get an A because new users and casual users didn't really participate, but otherwise it was good, and the community got very involved, and we got the generic Awakening Stone, which was very nice. I am baffled why they haven't done this again. Later on in the year, there was the Aces of the Arena event. I'll give that a C. This was a confused event. It was Arena Showdown, but with NPCs thrown in. There is a kernel of a good idea in there. I and others have asked that those NPCs be given their own game mode, But in this event, the NPCs actually got in the way of the PvP aspect, and because they gave points, the event overall was super grindy and not really PvP focused. Still, they gave out generic awakening stones to even free-to-play users, so that was a silver lining. And then recently there was the Arena Escapades, D-. Crap rewards, and the people who started immediately had a much easier time getting a bunch of wins in a row against easy bots, while people who started later had a harder time against real people teams. It also encouraged people to set single-man defense teams, which is not in the competitive spirit of true PvP. Alright, and then one last grade. This will be a middling grade C- for poor communication. Granted, this game has always been light on the developer communication, with zero special communication to the global community, except in the early days when they assured us we would catch up to JP. But this year was worse than usual. No director's letters, if I remember, even though he said he would try to write more. But I guess he was too busy working as a producer on Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Partway through the year, Colmay, head of game design, did some half-hearted live streams and game demonstrations, but pretty quickly fell off the face of the earth, and just another way it feels like the developers are giving up on the game. They're still putting a lot of effort into the story, which is great, and the character design. Those are the most important things, but can't we have everything? And no live streams since 2.5 anniversary. It gives the impression they don't care about what we think. It looks like they are dodging our criticisms and demands. Not a good look. And add to that the messaging of certain events at the beginning of the year that, to people that know what to look for, made the game look in danger of shutdown. Now you might be asking, but Cabbage, didn't you start the shutdown scare yourself? No, I did not. The gaming community in Japan was saying Nier Reincarnation would shut down quickly all through the first year. Square Enix debuff this, gameplay is boring that, A2 is too strong, etc., etc. It got so bad that producer Saito said in the livestream, the game is not shutting down soon. And then after that you had trolls on Global saying dead game, dead game. You had content creators saying the game needed to be saved. I was more bullish on the game than most people, and I waited until there were real signs before talking about it. Part of the reason I made my shutdown of mobile game series was to lay out what those signs are, so we wouldn't overact if there was something that was not a real sign, and so that we could take seriously what was a true sign. Global lost voice support. 2 anniversaries seemed crammed into one. They handed out a bunch of stuff without real announcement in the Subjugations for Everyone campaign. A bunch of other Square Enix mobile games that were earning better were shutting down. Nier Reincarnation C shut down. A word of assurance at this point, like producer Saito did, would have gone a long way. Saying that, we are guaranteed to get People World, Global is also guaranteed to get People World. I think that would have reassured a lot of people. But, as I have been saying since 2021, the game has aces up its sleeve, and I am confident both Global and JP will end at the same time, after the story is completed. And so, when on the calendar the game shuts down does not really matter to me. What matters is the story is completed. But a lot of players, especially players new to mobile games, don't share my point of view, and they only look at, a shutdown scare as a negative, and so, worst case scenario, quit the game. And that is such a shame, I think, because of the story, and the world, and the characters. The messaging from the developers is very important. That brings me to the conclusion of the report card. Despite this pretty poor year for the developers, I'm still super grateful for Nier Reincarnation. Global, getting the game at all is a gift, but to get it on the same schedule with near full translation is amazing, and I haven't forgotten it. I won't say I hope 2024 is better than 2023 because we'll see how much of the game is left, but I'll just say that I'm glad to put 2023 behind us. Okay, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.